people can see me. Okay, so hello everyone. Colleen was born on November 26, 1954, and she passed away on November 29th, 2019. And she left a legend. I mean, she's a legend here. And today, we want to take this time to honor and share our love for Colleen. We have a wonderful program planned today. Many people to share their memories and time spent with Colleen. So let us begin first with Patrick Graybill. Patrick? Kat gave me a poem that she liked, and she asked me to sign the poem. This poem is entitled Gone from My Sight, written by Mary Elizabeth Fry. I am standing upon a seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails to the moving breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength. I stand and watch her until, at length, she hangs like a speck of white cloud just where the sea and the sky come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, "There, she is gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight. That is all. She is just as large in mast, hull, and spar as she was when she left my side. And she is able to bear her load of living freight to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone says, "There, she is gone," there are other eyes watching her coming, and other voices ready to take up the glad shout. Here she comes. And that is dying.
Okay. Okay. No.
Patrick, that was beautiful. Thank you. So touching. You know, Colleen was the second child in her family. And there was such a celebration and tears of joy when she came into this earth and lived her life. And now she's gone, and the tears flow again. But she is at peace. She is having joy. And I'm sure she's rocking and rolling, partying the way she always did. Are you enjoying yourself, Colleen, looking at us? Let me introduce myself. I am Janice Cole. I was a good friend of Colleen's. I'll share more about the times that we've spent together, but I'm so honored and humbled that Kat has asked me to be the moderator for today's celebration. So touching. So next up, we have Kat. She's going to share a video with you, and then upon completion of that video, she'll have a few words to share. Kat?
Oh, back me. Stand by.
She was a wonderful friend, and she was quite the professional working at the community college in Queens. That was at LaGuardia Community College, where they had a deaf adults program. She was the assistant director there, and she worked there for 21 years. And the way I met her was, well, it actually was many, many years ago, back in 1973 at NTID in Rochester, at the school, NTID. And I saw her for the first time. She was so beautiful. The way she looked. And I said hello. She didn't know sign really well. She had just started picking up sign. And we lived on the same floor, on the fourth floor. This is a very beautiful picture of Colleen. Well, hello, everyone. I want to thank everyone for coming to this celebration of the life of Colleen. Colleen, Dale, Daviton, Burland. The staff at the Dyer Art Center was really instrumental in making this possible. So thank you. The interpreters and captions, we want to make sure that everyone has access to this celebration. Thank you. The planning committee did an outstanding job, giving me tremendous moral support and wisdom. First, I want to recognize Janice Cole, Patrick Hill, Anna Marie Beckett, Alyssa Olson, as well as Sally Taylor. Thank you all. And other friends who will share some memories about Colleen's life. So thank you all for participating in today's celebration. This picture of Colleen, shows that she was born in San Francisco on November 26th, 1954. And that was actually fell on Thanksgiving Day. Colleen's favorite holiday, as you might as well guess, was Thanksgiving. Every year, before we moved to Rochester, before the holiday, we would always take a day off. For example, whether it was her birthday or any other special day. She always enjoyed taking time off and celebrating. That was so important to her, her favorite holiday being Thanksgiving. This coming Thanksgiving, which is going to be November 26, 2020, will be our 19th Thanksgiving that we would have spent together. And she would have been 66 on that birthday. Again, another Thanksgiving. She was a Thanksgiving baby, if you will. She's always in my thoughts. She will forever remain in my heart. We first met back in 1973 at NTID, RIT. Our rooms were on the same floor, adjacent to each other on campus. We both completed our studies, we graduated, and we went our own ways, but eventually our paths crossed at the second annual festival, Massachusetts. And we had a chance to catch up with each other, share news of our lives. We exchanged business cards at that time. And so we got together in 2001. And then history was made at that point moving forward. Colleen and I had different backgrounds. I was from North Carolina, and I spent a great deal of time in the Northeast. I didn't travel much. Sometimes I would attend conferences or other events that I could attend, but as opposed to Colleen, she was born out west and she drove everywhere. She was quite the traveler. It was tremendous. And she had a chance in getting with Colleen to open up my mind and my heart and give me a wealth of experience. After that, we traveled a great deal together. We loved traveling, whether it was to national parks, enjoying nature at its fullest, enjoying art, visiting museums, cultural events, spending valuable time together. We actually flew to foreign countries. We went to Greece, Ireland, Japan, Eastern Europe as well. We also visited a lot of places in the U.S. We went to Hawaii, Alaska, many national parks, including national parks in Utah. We went on Route 66 and visited all the different landmarks. She loved to drive, let me tell you, and travel as a result. If you had a chance to go see our house, we kept many tokens of our travels. She was the best traveling companion you could possibly have. I will always remember that. We love visiting family and friends. We'd have them over our house. We would visit their homes. Colleen loved hosting various gatherings. We broke bread together with many people. And when we moved to Rochester, New York, that was 6 years ago, we had a nice, lovely ranch home. And she was quite the host, quite the entertainer. She would, invite people over for various occasions, birthday parties, fun classes, spiritual workshops, you name it. She loved it. She even got my father, who was 92 years old, a little twisting of his arm to come to Rochester, believe it or not. I absolutely love my wife. We spent many, many hours inside the house, outside in the yard. She had such wonderful creative energy. It exuded from her. She was had the green thumb, planting various flowers, labyrinths, trimming, landscaping around the yard. That was her. High energy, constantly doing stuff. I gotta resort to my notes to make sure I'm covering everything. When it came to Collie, she loved to mow the grass. She loved using mechanical equipment. She would take that leaf blower and clear the leaves from our yard. So we had various yard equipment. We had a big snow blower that she loved using as well. We loved living in our house in Rochester, and it was because of her that we purchased that house. And we advocated for marriage equality for many years, and we decided to get married in 2004. We went to the province of Ontario, Canada, for our nuptials. And then eventually New York State did approve of same-sex marriages. They passed a law in 2011, and we proceeded to go down to the New York City clerk and get our state certification, our marriage license. And we do appreciate having the benefit that other married couples enjoy that we did not enjoy prior to that time. So that was a wonderful step in the right direction, and we became wife and wife. And we wanted to be a model for many other couples who were considering getting married. We thought we were close to one of the first to get married here in New York State. And for that, Colleen, I'll never forget you. I love you. She gave me so much love, so much joy. She was quite the comedian. She loved to perform various skits, and she'd have me laughing. Other people would be rolling on the floor because she was so funny. She loved animals. We always had one pet or another in our lives. She had pets her whole life. She loved helping other people. She was so good-hearted. She was so caring, so sensitive. And she made an impact on so many, many people. It was an honor, to celebrate her life, her soul. And we will be lighting a candle at the end of today's celebration. If you don't have a candle, consider a flashlight so you can show the light of Colleen. And eventually, think about planting a shrub, a tree in your home. That would be a memory of Colleen. So I love you one and all. Love you, Colleen. Love you.
Welcome.
That was
I don't know
beautiful.
what
That warmed my heart to see the beautiful life that the two of you had. And I remember you two. I remember seeing you guys chat and everything. You guys were just the perfect couple. Beautiful. I remember the meeting where you guys first met. And I remember in 1973 living in that dorm on the 4th floor. And I roomed with Colleen for 2 years, and right next to us, I remember Colleen mentioning, "Oh, that girl's cute." I remember that happening, and that explains why you guys were together all the time. Next will be Jenna Marie.
Job to put it in.
Can everyone see me? Sorry, I'm not very tech savvy. I'm trying to get my view right. Colleen was seeing Colleen's pain and how she was able to express herself and open up to language. Yes, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing all the stories. That brought me to her full name was Colleen Daviton Burland. She was a daughter, a sister, niece, cousin, aunt. And she was my aunt. Deafness, deaf schools, family, deaf advocate, social worker, there's so many things. She was thoughtful, friendly, naturally loving, with a big heart. And she was I have so many memories with her. I'm always seeing her smile. She was so positive and encouraging. Her personality was beautiful. She always helped people and animals. Really respected and cherished life. And I remember she had this motorcycle. And she had a very specific way to ride, and she always wanted equality. She was very clean and organized and intentional with her movement. I remember joining a festival, camping at Letchworth. And I remember the food there, beef stew. It was delicious. She had this big truck that we would ride in. She named the truck Tazzy. I remember that now. And she traveled all over the place in that truck. She always traveled in her vehicles. She bought a white Cadillac that she loved to drive into. She would make these berry cookies, and she would decorate them with blue toppings, red. It was a West Coast thing. She would always bring this huge platter for everyone. And she would bring it with her so that everyone could taste it and everyone would eat it all up. She had 2 animals, and when they passed, she got cats. But I remember the cats were siblings. It had a striped tail, and it was really cute. Named Chiptail. She was very good at taking care of her animals. And I remember she was an animal mother. When she was away from home or with family, she was always here. She opened her heart and resources to everyone. She was always happy to be with me. I remember one time I flew alone to New York, and I was there to visit Colleen. We were by a sea breeze and everything was closed. But I remember she brought me to her friend's house, and there was a deaf party there. Everyone was signing. And I was young, but I wanted to stay with her. I loved being with her. I always felt safe with her. She had a very festive spirit. And she retired a few years ago. And she loved seafood. She always ate seafood with the family. One time we went to the hot spa, and we had a bunch of kids there, and everyone was playing. We all came together and we cooked together. And she always had things set up for the kids to enjoy as well. When she passed, we went to Letchworth and we bought 5 pumpkins. I have 6 kids, but I was pregnant with my youngest, and we all sat and carved the pumpkins. When Colleen would see the pumpkins carved by all the kids, it always brought her happiness. She always loved a good party. And I remember Colleen's wedding well. She had a beautiful wreath that she wore with her dress. It was a beautiful reception. It was small. And that day when they were able to be married and become wife and wife. It was a beautiful representation of equal rights activism. And I remember the couple, they both signed beautifully. I had so much respect for them. I always felt that they accepted me for who I was, even when we didn't agree. I remember her creativity. She always loved to make things. She recently had given me a couple of projects that she was working on. She made something with natural leaves that represented our family. I remember this tradition that she loved. It involved food. We all love food. Indian food. It involved Indian food. Our family would get together and celebrate for the holidays, and we would always cook Indian food. It included meat and rice pilaf with butter and cheese. You packed it in and put it in the oven. We all loved that food that she'd make, and we'd all indulge in it. She loved drinking Mountain Dew. She was addicted. She was addicted to drinking kombucha as well. Colleen loved showing us all the different stories of things that she loved, and I always knew that around Colleen I felt safe. Even if I was overwhelmed, if I was near her, I was safe. Colleen really enjoyed having family visit her. She loved the company. I remember how she could really see me. 2 times specifically, I remember I was struggling with something personal, and she could always tell when something was bothering me. She'd always come up to me and ask if I was okay. It was just something about her. She always noticed when something was bothering me, and I loved that about her. She loved planting, and she loved helping plant different flowers at Camp Mark 7. Anything to do with landscaping, she loved to be a part of. It was something she really enjoyed. I remember she came to see when my daughter was born. She was born late, and I remember my mom convinced her to come. My baby was so small, and Colleen was here, and she was just fascinated with the birth and the baby when she came. Many people don't realize that you can hear the sounds in your throat, and she helped with that. Her the way she dressed, I loved the way she dressed. She always had a lot of bracelets and jewelry, different accessories on. It was her style, and I loved it. Colleen really loved family. She really loved friends and community. She enjoyed going to events. She loved nature. One of my last memories with her was in the hospital. After she had after their stroke, and we talked, and I was able to FaceTime with my husband and kids back home so that she could see everybody, and everybody was there chatting with her, and the kids were there, and Colleen, she kept trying to smile even through everything, which really made my heart warm. She was there interacting with my family even then. And that was the last time that I was able to see her before she passed. It was a gift for me to see her little smile before she passed. My family loved her. We all loved her.
Oh, thank you.
Next, we have Jenna Marie. That was so beautiful. So many amazing stories and memories to share. I want to thank you for that. Yes, just so nice to hear a feel-good kind of presentation. Thank you. So next, we have Cindy McDougall. Now, Cindy grew up with Colleen. They were friends since the second grade out in California, the California School for the Deaf in Berkeley. So we'll turn it over to Cindy. Hi. I am Cindy. Now my married name is McDougall, and I'm from California, Berkeley, that's where I first met Colleen. I believe it was in the second grade. She attended the School for the Deaf, and we met each other. And realized that at that point her parents were deaf, and she came from a really large family, which we both shared, and so we became really good friends at that time. That was back in elementary school. We both lived in dorms, and I remember the times that we were very, very competitive, especially when it came to dodgeball. We would play, after dinner in the evening. We had the house parents, and we would just play, and we choose our teams. Typically, she might be a captain, I might be a captain. Not all the times, but more often than not. And we would play against each other, and sometimes she won, sometimes I won. It was so much fun. And then in middle school, we were in the same class together. It seems like that was pretty common all the way up through graduation. We graduated from high school in 1973. Anyway, we were in middle school, and I remember the time, that Colleen loved to study science. She had such a keen interest in science. And for me, I didn't have that same passion, but she enjoyed it so much. She was so good at it. She was so knowledgeable at science. Now, I was more the English lit kind of person. So we balanced each other. We were roommates over the years. I mean, she was my roommate so many times over those years. And when it came to sports, she liked swimming, softball. That was her cup of tea. And me, I was more the basketball, volleyball type of player. And then I remember in our junior year, we were chosen as delegates to attend NTID Junior NAD conference. That was the biannual conference. That was in 1972. So we had the chance to go there. We were so excited, so thrilled. We just tried to gather it all in. We remember flying out to the conference. It was our first time, but we had so much fun. So many memories. I remember coming back, and then we went to the Youth Leadership Conference, YLC, and she was chosen president of the Junior NAD chapter in California School for the Deaf. There was one project she led where we had to clean the hill that was adjacent to the school for the deaf. We trimmed the trees. We want to just try to make sure that we lessen the fire danger in our area. And she was quite the leader. She did a fantastic job. And one funny memory I'll share with you, it's just so comical. I remember seeing Colleen, I think we were seniors, and she had just gotten her driver's license in the previous year, I believe. She drove her parents' truck. It was a pickup truck, a rather large pickup truck with a camper on the back. So this was a huge vehicle. And there's Colleen driving with the big mirrors on both sides. I think we were going to pick up one of her siblings or brothers and sisters at the school for the deaf. There she was driving that big truck. And she looked like she made it look so easy. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't a nervous wreck. She was so comfortable, so confident in herself. And I thought, oh my gosh, she can drive that huge vehicle. Even some of the guys saying, wow, that girl knows what she's doing. And we thought, why not? Girls can do the same things that boys can do. She was very mechanically inclined, so she loved working with machines. And then upon graduation, she went to NTID. I went to Gallaudet, so we separated, but we still maintained contact through the years. And I miss her so much. Thank you, Cindy, for that. Now, I'm up next, and I want to share some stories as well. My time, my experiences that I value so much spending with Colleen. We were roommates for 2 years, from 1973 to 1974. The memories, there are so many. She was from California, and I was from Chicago. I was from a hearing family. She came from a majority deaf family. She certainly was that big D deaf family culture. That was who she was. And there we were, roommates for the first time. She was somewhat hippie-ish. So was I. We wore these baggy blue jeans that were very common at the time. My first impression of her was that she was just laid back. And I was kind of hyper myself. Being at college for the first time, a new experience. But there, Colleen was there just taking it in her own way. She settled me down, and we did so many things together during the college years, those college days. She was such a bright, smart woman. She loved science. She was fascinated with science, especially when it came to animals. I majored in psychology, social work. I was a people person. At night, as roommates, in our dorm room, we'd stay up all night with these long, all-night conversations. And I recall at one point, learning from her that she had this humanness. She loved to listen to people. She was a tremendous listener, just a tremendous listener. And yes, I do agree. Good listener, people person, such a good heart, caring, a good mind. And she had a lot of perspectives that she would share. I always enjoyed hearing from her as well. From time to time, we'd get our glass of wine and just talk for hours. Looking back, there was so much love, seeing all the names. We have 96 people attending this celebration of Colleen. You can see the love. The love is here. The support. That's who she was. I did say, that she was quite the scientist. She had a passion for science, but she also loved people. She had that side to her. She had that social work, giving advice kind of heart, but she never admitted it. She said, no, I'm more the science type of person. And back in the college days, we finally graduated, and our lives, crossed paths from time to time, and I'd see her, and of course, she wasn't one. She decided to go pursue her social work degree later on as a second career. She was the type of person who had the need to give others support. That's who she was. She was so comforting. I felt so safe with her, so comfortable with her. That's such a rarity to see someone. She never got angry. She never lost her cool. Sometimes she would be a little frustrated, a little agitated, but she knew how to control it. She kept it under control. For many years, we didn't see each other. For countless years, I'd hear about her from time to time. She would do the same. I'd hear about her leadership roles, and I would think in the back of my mind, that's no big surprise. The Deaf Women United Conference, the organization, I heard amazing things about it and Colleen's involvement. And so over those years where we didn't have a chance to see each other, all of a sudden I heard from her out of the blue, and she wanted to see me. And I said, yes, let's do it. And at that time she was in Rochester and I was living in Boston. And I said, well, I think it was sometime in the mid-90s. I said, come visit me in Boston. So she came and stayed with me for 1 week. And that 1 week is one I will never forget. I will treasure. Because back in our college days, we were young, carefree, but over time, we both grew up, matured, went our separate ways, and then we came back together. And we were both different people. We had matured, certainly, and it was there where I thought to myself, Colleen, you were meant to be a social worker. You were meant to work with people. And sure enough, she did. She went and became a social worker, a counselor at New York City. I heard so many beautiful things about her and the work that she did. So, looking back, we talk about her identity as a strong deaf person. Of course, I'm deaf too. And I became more identified with deaf culture because of Colleen. She used to make fun of me because I used to speak and, I could read lips. And she was quite fluent in American Sign Language. And we would tease each other on the differences that we both had. But she never judged or looked down at others. And I treasure her for her wisdom, her knowledge, her willingness to share all that she had to offer. I really loved that woman. And I appreciate all the love and sharing that she did with Kat. It sends tingles up my arm to think about that. And yes, you're right. She wasn't the morning person. I knew that all too well. I would have to try to wake her up and say, listen, we got to get to our meeting or do this, that, and the other thing to get her going in the morning. But just overall, who she was, a thing of beauty. I miss you, Colleen. I will always love you. Okay, let's move on. Next, I would like to introduce Patty and Julia. Both were co-workers who worked with her, Colleen, at Strong Memorial Hospital in Rochester. Kat will sign from a script that they offered. So Kat, you're up next. Hi, I'm a co-worker. The three of us work together, Julia and Colleen, and I've known Hello, my name is Patty, and I was a co-worker with the three of us, Julia and Colleen. And I've known Colleen for about 15 years. We spent those 15 years knowing each other. Colleen really made an impact in our lab work because as a unit working together with the three of us, there was 3 deaf employees and 7 other employees who were hearing, and sometimes we had challenges communicating. But Colleen was the one who would take the time to teach some of our hearing colleagues American Sign Language, and so that communication improved as a result of that. And then later, we would have staff meetings on a monthly basis. And Colleen would complain saying, where is an interpreter to facilitate communication? We need to have an interpreter. And she wouldn't stand by not having an interpreter. She put up quite a fight demanding an interpreter. So Julie and I were saying, Colleen, keep it down on the low key. Don't cause trouble. You know, it's hard enough as deaf people getting employment. And Colleen would say, oh, no. You need to abide to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA. And so she stood her ground and she fought, and finally they provided a sign language interpreter for our meetings. And that was such a beautiful change in the way things went before. We finally knew what was going on, and it was all due to Colleen. She also knew that I had Usher syndrome and that my eyesight was starting to degrade and that my vision was starting to narrow. And so in the lab, of course, you can imagine with the chemicals, it could be quite a dangerous environment. But Colleen would always sit next to me, helping me, keeping me informed, telling me who's coming into the lab, where the different individuals were, what was happening out in the hallway. She was sharing information that I couldn't see. So she was there keeping me informed, breaking down barriers, making sure that I didn't fall and trip over things I couldn't see. She was my protectorate. She had such the heart, and we all know it. We miss her so much. We're just so blessed and so thankful for all the help she gave us. She had such a big heart. Without her, I would have been lost in a lab. And it's something I will be forever grateful for her. I honor her at this time, and I want to thank you all. Thank you for listening to us and hearing our memories. Well, hello, I'm Julia Becker. Colleen and I were in the same class at MLT, the Medical Lab Technology program, back in 1974. Colleen was a California girl, deep inside. And she was a member of the SVP class of 73. She had to retake a couple of classes, and that's how she ended up taking the class with me. We had a lot of fun together. We have so many memories. She studied a lot. We did a lot of homework together. We spent time in the lab and did a lot of other things together. Colleen was such a unique person. She had a unique interest. She liked taking skeet shooting, the skeet shooting class at RIT. When we graduated, we got our associate's degree in medical lab technology. And Colleen went back to California. No, actually, she went to Reno, Nevada, to work with people as a caretaker and to teach American Sign Language. And I would say almost a year had gone by, and she moved back to Rochester, and she decided to pursue her studies in biology at RIT. And for me, I worked at Strong Memorial Hospital at that time, at the University of Rochester Medical Center, in the histology department. I was a technician. After a few years, Patty Starr joined me in the lab. And then a few years later, Colleen, upon graduating from RIT with her bachelor's in biology, joined us. So we were a trio, and Colleen loved her family. She was such a family person. She would always talk about members of her family in a very positive light. Colleen had a big heart. She cared about her friends. And I miss her. I love her. Thank you to, and I apologize. I said Kat will sign the message, and I got that wrong. So of course you're both fluent signers. So thank you for sharing. Next, we have Carrie and another coworker who worked with her at the Rockland Psychiatric Center in New York City. Colleen worked there. So Kat will sign this piece, and she's reading it from a script. So that's from the two co-workers of her at that Rockland Psychiatric Center. The eulogy from Carrie Davis and Rebecca Lackard from the New York State Office of Mental Health, the Rockland Psychiatric Center. And what they wanted to share, we all knew her, Colleen. She was so humbled, so caring, so kind, a very special person. But maybe some of you did not know she was also an amazing counselor, social worker. She worked for the psychiatric center. And I want to share this eulogy with you from Carrie Davis and Rebecca Lackard, working for the New York State Office of Mental Health, the Rockland Psychiatric Center. We all knew Colleen, kind, caring, a special person, but some of you may not know that she was also an amazing social worker. She worked with us at the Rockland Psychiatric Center for many years, working in deaf services, approximately 9 years. And during that time, she made some amazing improvements with some of the patients. These were challenging patients, believe me. One deaf patient had psychosis. And typically, this patient would walk up and down the hallway, quite a loner, isolating himself. And many of the staff members tried to work with this patient to make inroads on the problems that this patient faced. However, Colleen had tremendous patience and expertise in getting through to individuals to get the person out of their dark days, their darkness. She spent many hours with this particular patient, trying to connect to a point where this patient was able to have a conversation with her. And when she was not around, the patient would fall back into their hallway isolation walks and ignore the rest of the staff. But when Colleen was there, you could see in the patient's eyes, they would light up and they would reconnect. Another patient that Colleen worked with from a foreign country had limited communication, minimal language skills, and the staff tried to teach this particular patient some American Sign Language with very little success. However, Colleen, through her patience and her daily diligence in working with the student or with the patient over months, saw improvement in the patient's sign fluency skills and improved their communication so this patient could express their needs when they had them. Colleen was a wonderful co-worker to have, for sure. She worked collaboratively with all of us. And we all knew were her skills and how she could bring up people and how she could work with people and deal with various situations. We were very fortunate to have Colleen in our lives, even though it was for a short time. And we are so grateful that we had the experience of living her warmth and her caring for us for the time that we spent together. Kat and the rest of you here who also love Colleen, we send our condolences. Carrie Davis and Rebecca Leckard, working from the Psychiatric Center.
That was beautiful. Thank you. It's amazing. Of course, she was a wonderful social worker, and we all know that. I'm sure that we've all can agree with the comments that have been shared about Colleen today. She's so warm, loving, humble. Next will be two dear friends of Colleen's. Next speakers are Sally Taylor and Vicki Hurwitz. So Sally will be first, and then me. Good morning. I'm Sally Taylor. My husband and I we're here. We want to give our sympathies to Colleen's families and friends. We knew Colleen when we lived in Rochester. While we were working at RIT, that's where I met Colleen. Later, when she got a job in Rochester, we got to know her better. And she became a member of the deaf community. And that's when our friendship grew and it became stronger. I've known her deaf family, and they've been very special to me. Her parents, David, and her baby sister. You know that at the center in Rochester, we have the Deaf Advocate Women of Rochester, and that's been there for 30 years strong. Both Colleen and her wife became active in the group. They served different roles. One role that Colleen did was she planned and led the deaf woman camp for the deaf woman retreat. And the activities that she planned for the retreat were amazing. One famous one is the egg drop. That was one fun part for the 40 of us women getting together and dividing into different teams and competing with each other to see who could save their egg from getting broken when we did the egg drop. And each team member was given a raw egg. There were maybe 5 women per team. We had to go outside in nature and look for natural things like twigs or moss, dirt, anything natural, no artificial things. And we had to wrap our egg in whatever we could find to make it as safe as possible to try and resist it from breaking. Then we had to go up the stairs all the way to the 2nd floor of the building that we were at and drop the egg to the target that was placed on the ground. So we dropped it and just hoped that it wouldn't break. I can show you a picture of it. And you'll see, the team opening the eggs to see if it actually was safe or not. Should I show that now or later? I'm not sure. I have a picture of Colleen holding the blue flag. That was the color of her team, blue. And I think mine was green that time. I'm not sure, I don't remember. But anyway, that was one fun part about the retreat. We all loved Colleen. She was so fun. She was a great leader. And she had great leadership skills when she was directing the program. She was so easy in expressing herself and her individuality. She was very clear. It was easy to understand her, which made her a great leader. With all the experience she had with DWR, it was no surprise that she was selected to be the Deaf Woman of the Year. Colleen was a valuable member of our community. I can't imagine Rochester without her. We're all going to miss her so much. I love you, Colleen. So do I start or should I wait for the image that Sally was going to share? Yeah, I say go ahead and share the picture. Oh, there it is. Perfect. I think we had another picture, right? Yeah, there was one of her scratching her back. Yeah, let's go ahead and see the other picture, Vicky says. Oh, that's the one. It's a funny picture. She was scratching her back with that thing, and it made us laugh so much. Vicky says, I'll go ahead and start now. Good morning, everyone. From surprise, I'm in Arizona, that's where I live now. We sold the house in Rochester, or we're going to sell the house in Rochester next year. Anyway, when Katie offered me to be a part of this eulogy for Colleen, I was very touched. Touched not only because I worked closely with Colleen through the Deaf Women of Rochester, but I also was a part of the board with her, and she was a very special friend during that time. I'm happy that I'm able to share with you about how I knew Colleen. I knew her when she was a student majoring in biology at NTID RIT, and in the 80s when I was a mother and a social worker. We were apart for 10 years, but we never lost touch. We were always really good friends. And she was the chair of the successful Deaf Women United in 1970s. She was Woman of the Year. She got that award 3 years prior. Colleen was always thinking of others. She was always doing something for others. And if there was any money left over from the conference, she always called it the Pell Tag, the Professional Educational Leadership Training event. She would always provide training for the DUR officers and leaders, grading workshops. And she was always planning conferences. Many of our leaders today wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Colleen. Colleen was distinguished member of NTID, and she was a part of that because she was always involved in everything. She really gave a lot to make the deaf community better. She was very supportive. She had a high spirit, and the RIT alumni community really valued her. I remember her smile. I remember her smiling about the house after a meeting many years ago. I remember she had a dog that was in the purse. She would always have chewing gum in her purse. And I remember Colleen telling me not to leave chewing gum in my purse, but I had my bag on the floor. And now, ever since then, I always bring a hook with me so that I can hang my purse from the table instead of leaving it on the floor. When she moved to New York City, I was delighted that when she got married, and she was always a valuable member of NTID. And her and her wife were always so in love, which made me very happy. I was thrilled. I was thrilled when she decided to move to Rochester. And when she moved into her new house, it was close to a baseball field, which was great. She was a part of a deaf club that had holiday parties. And a week before we left Rochester for Arizona, which is where we live now, we had an event, and it was just great to have her presence there. She was funny, wonderful person. That's always how I'm going to think of her. She was level-headed. She always respected others. She always sought fairness for everyone. She was always very clear. She was resilient. She was humble, intelligent, and always very friendly. The best thing yet, she knew how to have fun. And Colleen, I know she's still involved from up there. Colleen, I cherish you and I miss you and I love you. Thank you, Sally, and thank you, Vicki. One when I see you guys, I imagine Colleen and being involved, and I see your leadership in the Rochester community. The three of you were great leaders. The three of you guys together were amazing. So the legend will always stay in our mind and in our hearts for all of us. It's clear from all of the stories, all of the comments that you guys have made. Colleen will be in our minds and our hearts with much love. Next, art is important. It's how we interpret life. And Colleen loved to travel. She loved art. We were always talking about art. I would like to invite Jana Marie to talk about her memories of Colleen and talk about art. Is that better? Okay, that's right. Okay. My husband is always trying to help me with the technology. He's tech savvy. Thank you. I want to thank you all for all of your stories and memories. I'll keep them with me. I find myself, because deaf people, when we're listening to stories, we can really relate to everything. And I find myself doing that here today. So, art. Colleen really appreciated creativity. She loved analyzing things and thinking about the artist behind it. She loved to give art. I remember in the city when she moved, she was surrounded by art. And there was always art. She would sign. They would go to the museums and she would always be signing and talking about art, trying to take it all in and use her language to express everything. Her family had an art background as well. They were all very motivated and creative when it came to art, which really embodied her as well. When she moved here, every year she started to collect art from different deaf artists. A lot of the artwork has a deaf perspective art view, which is called Devia. So she had art that was really positive, that celebrated deafness and deaf culture. That was her goal. She looked at resistant art, which expresses experiences from a deaf perspective, including oppression of language, social communication, oralism, things like that. So when they moved here, they got really involved with the art scene and the art around the world. And you would see their art collection grow. They really cherished deaf culture in art. The first piece you can see it on the screen. Thank you. Please. What do I do? Okay. Thank you. So first, it says, "Welcome to the fabulous Deaf Hood." So Colleen was really involved with this. She was really into what deaf looked like and being able to sign and understand everything clearly. She was really involved with family and involved in the community and leadership. She loved teaching ASL. She was a social worker, all encompassing the deaf hood and what it looked like. So this reminded her of her father and her brother in Reno. And they knew that this was a place that they would go often for holidays and for weddings. There's a lot of memories that were built there. So when you land in LA, you always have to check out Reno because it's really well known. There's famous gambling around. There's really pretty lights and art around. So she would always have that around to remember. Next. This is the same artist. I forgot the name. Anna Silver, but it's famous. The image is interpreted, and there's an interpreter there to provide access. The art is called The Tattooed Lady. They bought this to remember their trip to Japan in 2015. They got really immersed in the culture, and it was just fascinating. The picture you see has the tattoo on her back, and it's in Japanese sign language. They really tried to study and learn the language themselves, and you can see the language all around in this picture and how it grew. It was interesting, you know, they're in the room, she's in the room alone with her shirt pulled back to see her back, and she really wants access to language. That's what she wants. And we can look over her shoulder to see what she's looking at and see that she's empowered to grow. In Japan, tattoos are really looked down upon. It's not appropriate to have tattoos in that culture. You know, people view it as bad, but here in America, tattoos are viewed as cool. And I remember the tattoo on her back. There's a dolphin with water and a rainbow to associate with her identity. And then on the back, there was a moon tattoo to associate. She was really resistant against oppression. And I think that Colleen was a little bit of a rebellious spirit as well. She was a big advocate for deaf equality. Next. This art really speaks for itself. It's about Rochester, New York. Laura Hartman is the artist, local artist. Colleen bought this because Rochester was her home for many years, and she moved here and she stayed. They moved to New York City for a short time. I'm not sure how many years they stayed there, but they went to the city and they came back and settled down in Rochester yet again. Next. This is a gourd, and there's 4 images on here. I'll sign, but Elise will show the different images on there. So the gourd was given to Colleen as a gift, and she loved it. It was in honor of her. The deaf name Tony Landon McGregor was the artist. So you'll see there's an image of a turtle and a bear to represent long life and health. The bear represents strength and inner leadership. The third image is of a dolphin because that was her favorite mammal. And dolphins often communicate through the vibrations. That's where they get a lot of communication, which is similar in deaf culture. We rely on the vibrations around us to communicate. Let's see, and then what? The last one is the water with nothing underneath. And it represents the air and the water, which is in relation to the deaf and hearing lives and the ups and downs that come with them. Last is a lizard or a salamander. The lizard conserves itself for strength. Colleen went to a deaf festival and had a booth there and met the artist, Tony, and brought a lot of the art home. You can see on top that figure there. It represents grace, empathy, and survival. You'll see the stone. You can see the turquoise there. That was her favorite stone. And if you turn, you can see the antlers and more stones. And you'll see that as you turn, you'll see the different images. It's really beautiful. This is really a part of the East, the Eastern culture. And they really appreciated the art.
Next, I'm going to show you several pieces of artwork that have a common image among each piece. It's repetitive. It's sort of the motif in the Devia art movement. Obviously, you know, it's part of deaf culture. We rely on the hands. We are visual communicators. So it conveys that kind of meaning. And it's very bright. You can make tremendous connections to this. It's very inspiring. Let's share these. Next. This one is the artist done by Ellen Mansfield. And Colleen has several pieces of her artwork. They were actually friends. Hamana, what this refers to is having a good life, a strong life. It could be interpreted spiritually, you know, something more religious-like. Conveys meaning of strength. It has the form of a hand, and you can see there's some water that's shown here. And again, it's showing sort of the language that's being shared. And the different colors represent commitment, life, inspiration, language, communication, ASL. You know, this is something that empowers deaf people to be proud of their heritage and their language. And that's what this art conveys. Let's show the next one. This artist is from Panama. It was a deaf person, Iris Aranda. And you can see the hand. Look at the designs that are on there. In their culture, they use strong design elements. And the artwork is somewhat abstract, but it emphasizes the importance of being rooted, having a strong cultural root. Culture was so important to Colleen, deaf culture, and so this conveys that as well. If you have a chance to visit a cave that's over in Europe, where they were able to discover prehistoric paintings of animals and of people, and they usually sign the art with their hands, and it's showing their presence, that they're an important person, they are there. And so that's what this piece conveys. It's so important. Show the next one, please. This one's entitled, well, it's by Burland Mansfield. It's called Third Eye, Diva. The third eye represents the spirit of sight. It's not just that you can see each other, but it's probably more faith-based, but where you can see with the third eye, you're able to see more. Divya, it's the deaf view, the deaf frame. How we want to protect and value our language, our culture, our heritage. All these blue eyes, you can see there's many different examples here. Those are various symbols, all connected to preserve our culture. Next. This one's called Destiny. It's a deaf artist, David Call, from California. Or maybe not from California, but settled in California, a very strong deaf artist who painted various images. And this is one called Destiny. And what this one here shows you is the meaning of a journey to a comprehensive ASL environment, where you can see up close the sign PA, meaning finally, at last, we've reached our destiny. And there's three elements. One is American Sign Language, also a woman, and nature. You can see that all three of those are combined in this image. And those are so, so important to Colleen. Next, please. Now, this one was in Colleen's kitchen. When they bought the ranch home in Rochester and Sutherland, the kitchen was really old, so they had it gutted and remodeled, brand new. And right above the stove, they wanted to put a backspace with something, so they decided to get Ellen Mansfield's piece, ask her to make something that was befitting of this kitchen. So this was what was produced. You see the hands, the leaf. It was trying to show Colleen's love for nature and for American Sign Language. Interesting, that they decided to put this one in the kitchen, because kitchen is sometimes usually the heart of the home, where people gather to break bread, have food. It's usually very warm and welcoming. Next, please. This artist is named Lori Rose Monahan. Also was a very good friend of Kat and Colleen's. They had a tremendous friendship. And so you can see the face where someone's trying to listen to the sound. And the flower looks like it's the shape of the bomb, the bells. And you can see the hearing aid. Can you really hear the sound? No, but it's more that you see it. You hear it through the eyes. And so this sort of conveys the sound, but seeing it. And it's inspired by another deaf artist, Morris Broderin. Had a piece in the Dyer Permanent Art Gallery called The Sound of Flowers. And they're holding flowers up against their ear. Next, please. This one is by Ellen as well. And this is called Clockhead Butterfly. What's behind this one? You can see the butterfly. The butterfly has hands and an arm. And it shows the importance of language, having a first language. And if you remove the hands, then how does someone cherish and flourish and appreciate ASL? So the butterfly, I think, is an interesting choice here. The butterfly, comes from a caterpillar and eventually it attaches to a tree and becomes a beautiful butterfly. And so when we give deaf people full access to language, having a first language, American Sign Language, they flourish like a butterfly. And it's not black and white, but it's colorful. It shows the opportunity to develop, grow, and mature. Next, please. Colleen had a lot of pieces of art that showed her affirmation and her pride, but two showed the resistance to oppression. This was Vicky Campos Hamilton's piece. It was clay and wiring piece. And you can see the CL referring to classifiers, which means hand shapes representing something. Like, for example, the classifier for a vehicle, and it looks like a vehicle parked in a parking lot, and it stays there, it can't move. So it's a classifier of hands parking in a parking space, which represents language oppression. Next, please. This artist, Takia Harris, is a mixed media piece. And it shows that we face enough of the oppression of lip reading. And you look at the lips, they're in the hands, but they're not connected. There's some disconnect there that conveys that oralism does not give a deaf person completeness. It takes so much work, time, and effort to try to use reading lips and speaking, whereas American Sign Language gives a person access to full language. A very powerful piece here. Next, please. And now we're talking about Colleen's personal work. This shows her appreciation for Alyssa Olson. She gave this to Alyssa. This is her name. Alyssa loved cows. She's from Wisconsin. So Colleen put this piece together. The cows and the cowbell. It was in the package, and whereas Alyssa could keep this and remember Colleen at all times. Next piece. Oh, I forgot to add too. I'm sorry. Colleen would work on these where she would knit. And her mother and her grandmother, Jeanette, were strong knitters. They liked to sew. They sewed so many things for the family, clothing and other items. And it seemed like as she got older, she wanted to work with this. And so Colleen borrowed her mother's old sewing kit, and she got together in knitting and sewing different items. So, and this is one of them that she made for her wife, Kat. Kat went on to explain that she likes elements. Actually, there's four of them: water, fire, air, and earth. And so this was natural colors, transitional colors. And so Colleen decided to put all that thinking into it. And this was a wonderful piece. And you can see the beadwork that was done there. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. And just has many images that we all cherish and remember Colleen by. Next piece, please. This is more abstract in its representation. You can see this is one of her beginning pieces with the lines and the color. It talks about Colleen's experience in New York City, where she moved with her cat, Dallas, and her journey, her travels in New York City. You know, it presented many challenges, and she had some trauma experiences there during her time. So this art was originally sewed, but then it evolved over time and to a point where really it just conveyed some of her inner challenges and struggles, putting it all together. You can see there are some pieces here. You can see there's a cat, the eye of the cat, Dallas. You check that out. And if you see it close up, you can see a leaf, a bird, some other items, but again, it's quite abstract in its motif. So, it's a beautiful piece. Oh, yes, and I meant to add, Colleen also from time to time was quite spontaneous and could say, well, I want to do something fun, spur of the moment thinking. That's who she was. Next, please. And this piece she made for her mother, Jeanette. And you can see the CDB down at the bottom. It was her name, Colleen Daviton Burland. And you can see there's strong color tones, especially the rose that's shown here. That was her mother's favorite color. So this is a way of honoring her mother, and she made this piece for her. A beautiful design, I must add. Next, please. And this is our family in Lake Tahoe. We spent many holidays in Lake Tahoe there. And so she took a picture and she cut around it and she stapled the outside of the picture, and then she sewed it to various other items surrounding the picture. If you look close, you can see there's a hand holding a beer. And I think that was her brother. Her brothers, sometimes they were always looking for trouble, causing havoc in their own funny ways. Next, please. Another piece that was made as a gift to her parents to put in their Lake Tahoe home. There's tiles, there's grout, there's sand, there's foam. There's a pine tree, there's some wood that make up this piece. Felt, I believe, is part of the materials. So various materials brought together in a frame, and she gave it to her parents as a gift. Next, please. And this is the last piece we'll share with you. Colleen made this for the Chicago Deaf Lesbian Festival in 2012. If you look up close, you can see there's chopsticks. Colleen loved sushi. So that's what that conveys. Also, you can see the colors of the rainbow, showing the gay pride sentiment. And you see the different shapes, the pink squares, again, their gay identity and support for, the people in Chicago coming together. And you can see the various beads that comprise this piece. So before I wrap up this piece, two things I want to leave you with. One, I would encourage you to take some time and look at the gallery online exhibition that shows all this work that I've just shared with you and that I've explained to you. And you can spend more time and really get to appreciate some of these pieces of art. And you can also contact Elise for more information. So in closing, we can see how Colleen's art collection really reflected her love for the deaf culture, for deafness, for American Sign Language, and her love of people. Thank you. Jenna Marie, that was absolutely beautiful. You as a curator and sharing all of this, it was intriguing. I was just so taken by it. I'm also a love of art as well, and just sharing Colleen's amazing talent, skill. I never really knew that piece about her, how skilled she was in art. And I look forward to looking at this online in her work. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. And yes, it shows her love of life. There she was. Oh, this is so wonderful. Thank you. I'm just having a moment, and I miss miss Colleen so, so much. Well, time is coming to an end here. We're going to be wrapping up this celebration, but two things I want to leave you with. Do you have your candles ready or your beam of light? Let's get this ready because we all want to do this in unison. And before that, I'd like to quickly invite you to share one word, just simply one word that comes to mind when you think of Colleen. Type those in the chat. Let's do that now. Grace, love, cool, love, heart, wrestle, amazing, easy, awesome, caring, kindness, friendship, caring, mischievous, sweet, charm, strong, beautiful person, connection, warm and loving, unique, grounded, easygoing, a matriarch, beautiful hearted, affectionate, adventurous, loving, a good friend, symbolic, ooh, all beautiful. That is who Colleen was. Just an awesome sister to all of us. And these candles, non-judgmental, yes. Sparkling eyes, yes. Many, many wonderful words to describe Colleen and how we remember her. So, light your candles. Can we all share our candles? Show the candles. Let's see the gallery. Let's light this place up. Does everyone have their candles lit? Are we all illuminating the spirit here with us? Feel the warmth. Let the unity be with us. And to everyone, to each and every one of you, Colleen is within each of us in this time together. And the world's a better place because of Colleen being here among us, with us. So thank you, each and every one of you, for sharing. And thank you for being part of this wonderful celebration, honoring the memory of Colleen, Dale, Daviton, Burland. Thank you, Kat. We are with you as well. We are with every member of the people that were in her life. Thank you from the bottom of our heart. Thank you all. Thank you.
And bye. Go, get Kevin, he comes. Kevin. Get him, okay. No, get up. No, get up. No. No, no, baby. Okay. Anytime. Thinking. Okay, I you. Yeah, baby. Come, come, come. Come. Okay. Come. Come, picture. Yeah. Okay. 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 I put with the picture to put about tap. Put it about. What happened? With the man from the halfway painting the history is a brother on the happy and so such a Welcome. No. Okay. Okay. Back. I'm the I'll put you. Okay. Okay. Judge.